Hey, good morning, everybody. Hello, Manish. How are you doing?
Very good. Good morning to you, Ajit, and the audience.
Yep. Welcome to episode number 6 of Pureblu Spotlight. That's the 6th month in a row. And to all our viewers who are joining us for the first time, Manish and me are the founders of Pureblu. Pureblu is primarily got two product lines. One is it's a SaaS product, software as a service, where air conditioning service providers use a platform to manage their business and their data, their customers, and also their field resources like the technicians and the devices. And we also have a Smart AMC. Smart AMC is an offering to our customers, and it's a regular annual maintenance contract for your air conditioners. So if anything goes wrong with that air conditioner, we take care of it. But you also get a meter, a smart intelligent meter, free, which is installed at your premises. And what this meter does is it monitors your air conditioning, monitors your power consumption on a daily basis, and it sends you a report like the one that's on the screen right now, which shows you how is the power consumption that you had over the last 24 hours, and what is the comparison in like a 2 hour slots compared to same day, same time last week. So you get a quick analysis as to how many rupees and how many kilowatts you have actually used. And that becomes a corrective method for you to improvise and to make sure that you're very judicious about the energy consumption. And this comes to you free as part of the Smart AMC. All right, great. But Spotlight is not to talk about Pureblu of its features or its products. It's about the three pillars that we believe in: productivity, accountability, and reliability. And we tend to bring up topics around these things as to how they make such a big difference when it comes to customer service. And today we're going to talk about mistakes that coordinators make. That's something that we've had a learning over the last 2 years. And we've had people who wrote to us and said that, hey, why don't you tell us? And I mean, it just came out of a conversation. So we kind of summed it up and said over the next 30 minutes, let's put a few highlights for all the people who are there here to actually understand what are the kind of mistakes that coordinators make. Now, coordinators are the people who are the first interface to a customer call. And they are the ones who take the call and address the call. So they have different names. We call them administrators, you call them coordinators, you call them dispatchers. So this is the first interface for any service provider. So Manish, in your opinion, what is it? We've always been the backend for all such coordination. The whole world has kind of offloaded their backend work to us. So what do you think about this expectations from the coordinators and these dispatchers, or back home
Yeah,
in India?
so I think the idea of India being, back office for the world really started during Y2K. So that's like almost 21 years ago, where everyone was like, hey, we have this issue with the Y2K bug, supposedly. So all of that work came to India, and that actually led to the growth of Infosys, Wipro, TCS, all of these companies. And so in that process, India kind of built up this tech innovation, tech, hub for the rest of the world. So we became the back office for the rest of the world. And then, in India itself, we kind of didn't focus too much on it because we were focusing more on external, focusing on Forex reserves and making sure we can get the incoming, foreign currency. But I think with the pandemic, that has really changed because now people realize that we need to also make sure that our operations in India are actually, operationalized and digitized. And that's in every aspect. And you see it with the, you look at the income tax portal, although that is, getting revamped. If you want to get a passport, that's been revamped. So a lot of this stuff has been happening over the last, I would say 5 to 10 years at a government level. And if you look at the funding that has happened in the VC space in the last, 3 years, really since the pandemic, it has been every single industry is just getting money. And it's not just because, hey, let's just give them money because they need it. It's because there is so much opportunity to really digitize every single interface. And that really is the whole idea That's what's happening even in the air conditioning space. So when you say, how has a coordinator, how has a back office evolved, a lot of it is digitization, because before people would just take the call and they would write someone's name down, then they would find who's an available technician and then tell them to go there. Oh, but where do you go? Then they'd have to find out, where is that customer located? And then there must have been some miscommunication around what air conditioning unit is in question. So when that technician comes to you, he probably first will call you, say, hey, where do you live? And you'll be like, wait a minute, don't you already have my information? But you give it to him anyways because you want to get your issue solved. He'll come to your house, your office, then he'll say, okay, which air conditioning is the problem? And then again, you're back to square one saying, I thought I already told your coordinator. So all of that is trying to get automated, that whole process. And that's, of course, in the HVAC space, but that's happening in everything, whether it's Swiggy, whether it's Uber, Ola, all these guys are trying to say, how can I get the service to the customer with as little friction as possible, and really focusing on, just making sure that customer experience is really good. So having said that, I talk about the air conditioning space, but tell me from your perspective, Ajit, you're in it day in and day out. Where do you think, coordinators make mistakes? And this is not really to, say, oh my gosh, they all make mistakes, but the whole idea of this process of digitizing is understanding where are the holes in the system, where is the choke points, and then from that you can understand where do you actually apply the resources to fix those problems. So I would imagine from your perspective, you must have a list of things that you see on a daily basis.
So, over the last 2 years that we've seen so many of our partners using the Pureblu platform. It's the what when you look at it, it is like, you have to consider the software or the platform as a tool, all right? And that's the first mindset. Now, they see it more as a compliance perspective. My boss has told me, so I need to fill it in. And that's where the mistake happens. No, that tool is available for you to improvise and make sure your productivity is better and the customer experience is better. So here are some of the big mistakes that coordinators make. And I'm going to just take top 3 of them. First one, when a customer calls, you know what most of them end up doing? They write it on a paper or they write it on a book, right? So you ask them, why are you writing it on the book when you can actually just log it immediately while you're talking? I mean, you can do it real-time basis, right? You receive a call, you identify a customer, and you log the call right away. Oh, no, I want to write all the calls, and then during the day, I'll enter all of them one by one. So that's the mistake. So the process itself is broken. So when you have a clear laid out process, just follow it, and it just works fine. The second thing, when a call has been allocated to a technician, right? And for some reason, either the technician hasn't reached the site or he has missed the call, and the platform actually, the dashboard kind of alerts you saying that, hey, the guy hasn't reached on time, and what we call as it's got escalated. You need to step in and act, because that escalation is a human intervention. It is saying that, listen, someone needs to intervene at the back end, and I need to have that fixed. That doesn't happen. I will see all the escalated calls at a later time at my convenience. No, this is real time. You're using the tool day in and day out during the entire working hours. So when that call gets escalated, you kind of actually allocate it immediately, reallocate it, find out where the problem is, not try to have this approach that let me pile up everything and then do this task. That's the second thing. Third most important mistake. Everybody thinks that he's a superhuman. He wants to remember everything. He just wants to remember everything. The human brain doesn't permit you that. Yeah, it gives you problems because of that. So the platform, two things that happens. Customer told you something, call me on so and so date, or can you call me tomorrow and fix a meeting, or can you get back to me on the price, or no, I have given you a price, but there are some corrections that is required. Can you revise it? Or I don't want the same work to be done. Now there are multiple calls coming, and people tend to keep remembering these things. Two things happen. One, you forget. All right, it's humane to forget. Second, when you need it, you will never be able to get that record. And then the customer gets irritated. He says, yeah, you should have written it down, right? The platform actually gives you methods to do it, where at the back end, you can put notes, against that travel ticket. And you can put a reminder saying that, hey, the customer is called tomorrow. So tomorrow at 10 o'clock, you will get a reminder from the platform saying that, hey, I need to call this customer. Now imagine, you don't have to remember anything. You don't have to keep any diaries, nothing. And now the platform has become very intuitive. And, and that's when the customer experience becomes big, because now the customer feels it's very personalized, at a very limited thing. So Manish, you spoke about Ola, Swiggy, and so many other things. So when you actually call for a service, and you and I have spoken about it so many times, what are the things that you would expect from a service provider?
Yeah, I mean, that's what has really changed. The dynamics is now people expect a certain level of quality because they've used all these other apps. So now they want that same level of service and quality in any app they use, not just the one or two of Swiggy, Amazon, all these. So, what ends up happening today is, when you call someone, you want them to come directly to the doorstep without you having to tell them where to go. And they say, yes, I've come here to look at, the AC in your big bedroom, and that's the whole idea. And that's and why is that? Is because that's what has happened before. When I order something from Amazon, I put in my address once, that delivery will come to my house directly. They don't call me, and they used to, but now they've gotten better. All the systems have gotten better. Even Swiggy, when they first initially launched, they would always ask you, what building, aap kidhar hai, and you're just like, I've already entered all my information. Why are you asking me? And that whole pain point of trying to deliver that product without asking anyone was the whole hallmark of it. And same thing with Ola and Uber. Where are you located? And then the other question now sometimes it asks is, where do you want to go? And people were always afraid, because then they would afraid that they would get canceled, that they would cancel the ride, or they wouldn't be able to take it. So, what I would expect from a service provider is same thing. I'd be able to just, initially call them, and they would have all the information, and they would say, yes, this is Mr. Manish Jain calling, and you have 7 units. Which unit are you talking about that has an issue? And then you log the complaint. And that's all because, people are expecting that. And I will talk a little bit later in this episode about some of the newer features we've got going that'll actually streamline this even further. And that's really what we're trying to do, is figure out how we can make it easier and easier for the end customer to kind of get their problem solved without going through a bunch of different hoops, So that's kind of, that's where we see this going. So explain, that's from my perspective as an end customer. Now, you as a service provider, how do you expect service providers to give a better experience to their customers, from a Pureblu angle?
So, Manish, exactly what you said, See, from a customer, when he gets used to a Swiggy, Ola, Amazon's, or the banks and everything, that becomes his benchmark for expectations for service. Now, that expectation doesn't change because now the service provider is not a multinational company and is your next door guy. Is a guy in that area who is actually giving you service. That's my expectation. I've got used to it. I can't help it. And every small business which is into the business of air conditioning services need to understand that this is a customer's basic expectation. It's not a wow factor that you're giving. You must realize that, half of the guys think that, I give such good. No, that is your basic requirement today. And you need to live up to that. If you don't, you're out of business. And the Pureblu platform actually gives you all that to do. It's very easy. When a customer calls, you can just search. Immediately it pops up who the customer is, what are the machines that he's got, where is the location. And, it's intuitive. So he says, he could have his office and his house. He could have multiple locations. He'll say, my bedroom AC is not working. That's typically how you would actually log a complaint, right? And the platform is intuitive to that. So it'll identify which is that bedroom AC. You can see it with just one click, and you know what is the status of the machine. So see, from a service provider's perspective, when a call comes in, I need to know that is this machine in annual maintenance contract? What kind of a maintenance contract it is? And if it is not, what are the charges to be given? The platform gives you that information immediately. You don't need to take the customer's address, contact details, nothing. And it's all there. And the complaints are also registered by auto drop. It's not like somebody has to enter the complaints. It's like 2-3 clicks and that's it. You are logged the complaint and it is already immediately allocated to the technician. And that makes it fantastic because the customer just calls and he immediately says that, hey, I have my bedroom AC. I'm so and so person. I'm Ajit Panikar calling. My bedroom AC is not working, or my cabin AC is not working. And intuitively, everything is mapped. And that makes it a wow factor and easy for the service provider. And from a productivity perspective for the coordinator, it is fantastic. In just flat 15 seconds or 20 seconds or max 30 seconds conversations, you've taken note of all the details. And one of the most important things that we actually built over the last few months is the calendar feature. Manish, you want to talk about how we actually designed the calendar and the basics around it as to the calendar feature?
No, definitely. So, one of the things we always talked about, that this show wouldn't really talk about, the specific features of Pureblu, but I think this is an example of, something that is a feature of Pureblu, but it's more about what the customer receives, And so this one, what we did is, what we did for the calendar feature was really take a look at, how do people use Google Calendar? How do they use, Microsoft calendaring, all these different functions. And we said, let the backend coordinator also have a very simple visual interface. So, it's typical drag and drop is very easy. They can see the entire schedule of the day, not only for that technician, but all the technicians. And so when that call comes in, they can say, okay, sir, we can allocate this to, XYZ, and that person should come around 3 or 4 p.m. So that's one of the ideas we did. It was, make it very easy. Because then quickly you can see the schedule of everyone, and that actually helps the end customer because you're not having that person go through everybody's calendar and try to figure out, is that person available, not available. The coordinator can see it very quickly, and then really, like you said, within 15, 20 seconds, the customer is off the phone, because he's called, he said, yes, fix it. You said, yes, we can come between 3 and 4. Does that work for you, Mr. Customer? Yes or no? Customer says yes. They drag and drop it. It gets allocated, and then the technician comes to that person's home between the allocated time frame. So that's kind of how we designed it. Make it very easy for the coordinator, and then it kind of makes it much, much easier even for the end customer because they're not sitting there waiting a lot of time. It's in and out and they're done. So that's kind of how we, designed that calendar. But tell me something. How is a calendar? That's from the end customer's viewpoint. But how's a calendar feature really being used by the coordinators, and what do they feel? Are they interested in using this feature, or do they another additional thing they have to do?
So it's very simple. So when the customer calls, it's you've logged the complaint and you allocated it. Now the platform is now logging it and identifying which is the right engineer based on his skill set and his location to actually attend the call. Now imagine if there are 5 technicians, 50 technicians, 100 technicians. How much over people, depending upon the size of the service provider. How does a coordinator know which engineer or which technician is free? Okay, who has, and because this is not like that Swiggy or that Ola, right, where you can map the distance, you can map the time and say that, okay, this is like a 1-hour job and within 1 hour he'll get free and the system can allocate. It doesn't, because some of those problems or the complaints that come can be fixed in 30 minutes. Some can get fixed. Some might take even 2 days, or some might take 3 hours based on the nature of the complaint. So to a certain extent, there is that human intervention to planning. Now, when a coordinator is planning that, what he needs is a single display of where all the technicians are and what is happening. So he can see those white spaces or blanks that you see where you know that the technician is free, because the technician through his app has already estimated as to how much long it's going to take, right? Because he's already ongoing, the nature of the complaints, and you will know where are the spaces that is blank, and you can just drop the call there. And that when you drop the call there, the customer is automatically intimated about the changes. Let's say through the work, because you want to realign certain things, you take the call from one technician to another technician. There are no phone calls happening, nothing. You just drag and drop. So pretty much like how you explained, that how that calendar feature works, which is so commonly used by all of us. That's the way, and that has made things so easy to plan and organize. And it's there always. So even when you start your day, you know how your resources are placed, how the technicians are placed for the entire day, what are the calls that have been allocated. So what really happens from a customer's perspective is he immediately gets to know as to when. So you can confidently say that, you know what, the technician will land up at 4 o'clock today evening. Without even saying that, let me check, identify, and come back. That one call should be given. And that's a wow factor. Because from a customer's perspective, he calls, he doesn't have to give any details. He just says who he is. He says that this AC is not working. And the call and the response you get is, hey, don't worry, your technician is going to come today at 12 o'clock or at 1 o'clock. And it's so firm, and the guy reaches at that time. That's the big benefit of what we have created and what we have seen from that whole calendar feature. But as you already spoke about, what are the future things that you are thinking? I mean, you think that would happen with the platform in making this consumer experience a much better play and removing
All
the
right,
inefficiencies that
now we're talking about some interesting stuff. So I'm sure the first thing people must have thought is, why am I calling somebody? That doesn't make sense. I don't call Swiggy. I don't call Ola. I don't call Uber. Why do I have to call somebody? So when you think about when Ola first started in India, they actually had an option where you could call someone to book a taxi or a cab or something like that. So a lot of people did that. And then at some point they had to shut that service down because they really wanted to force people to use the app. Because there was that comfort factor in talking to somebody. Will that person really come? Will he really come at this time? All of that. That's how they kind of got people acclimated to using it. So same thing, we're talking about this, idea of, you calling the service provider and then they kind of allocating the call, and we're talking about the calendaring. But the reality is you don't want to know about any of that. What you really want is a very simple interface. So we're actually looking at launching two things in the future for the Pureblu platform. And the first one is something that I'm sure everyone is kind of looking at, and that is WhatsApp integration. I guess good or bad, a lot of us live in WhatsApp. So the best thing is, hey, if I've got a problem with my HVAC unit, why don't I just send a service complaint to Pureblu? And that's exactly what we're trying to do. So if you've ever used AquaGuard, water filter, you'll know how easy it is. They've already got your number registered with them. So you just kind of say, you just message them on WhatsApp saying, I've got a problem. Then they'll come back to you and say, yes, dear Manish Jain, you're a customer of ours. This is, your units that you have with us. So you kind of say, I've got 3 different units or 2 different units or 1 different unit for AquaGuard. And then you kind of say, yes, number 1, I need servicing for, and then it'll give you 4 options on what kind of servicing you need. Is it not working? Is the water bad, or XYZ? And then you select that, and then boom, they assign a technician. And it's all through WhatsApp. So there's no need to download another app or do anything like that. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with Pureblu. We want to give this to the end customers so they don't have to download an app, because let's be realistic, people are kind of sick of downloading yet one more app for something that is not being used every day. I can understand if you're using Swiggy and Amazon on a daily basis, to use their apps makes sense. But, doesn't make sense for an app that you're going to be using maybe once every quarter or once a year. So that is what's coming, and it'll be very easy flow. We'll have your number registered. We will know where you're located. So maybe you have an office and a home. We'll ask you, is this issue concerning your home or your office? You would select, office or home. Then there would say, okay, within the office, you have 5 units. Which of these 5 units is the problem you're talking about? Then you select, let's say it's the main conference room. You select conference room, and then it'll give you like 5 or 6 options for what are the potential problems. You select that problem, and then boom, we automatically in the back end will allocate a technician. He'll come out to you and we'll give you a notification of when you can expect him. And that's it. And that's one of the beauties of using WhatsApp, is everyone's already using it. Everyone's already comfortable with it. And the best part is you don't have to call anyone. You don't have to have any more waiting online, or maybe there's an issue with the coordinator. They might have made a mistake in, giving you the wrong information as far as based on what you've given them. So that eliminates even, the coordinator's interactions. So you as a service provider can even save time and money by not having as many coordinators, because now all of a sudden a lot of the requests are coming in via WhatsApp. So that's number 1. Number 2 is something that's coming in the future, and that'll be the IoT device. So right now, if we have WhatsApp integration, you actually have to make the initiative to say, you know what, this machine is not cooling. Let me make the request. The idea is in the future, the IoT device will actually know that there's something wrong with the machine, and it'll actually automatically generate a service complaint, and you'll be notified via WhatsApp saying, hey, you know what, your machine hasn't been working for the last day or so, so we have automatically generated a service request, and this is what's coming. Are you okay with it, yes or no? And that is what we're really looking forward to, is instead of you being, it's the difference between being reactive and proactive. Reactive is when you have to do something. Proactive is when we kind of identify the problem on the back end using different technologies, using the IoT sensors, and then we actually generate the service requests. So that's really the two big things coming for 2022. And we think that's really going to change the game as far as HVAC servicing is concerned in India. So that's kind of my take on the technology side. But tell me, Ajit, in the meantime, because it's not going to happen tomorrow or the next week, it's going to take some time. Tell me, what is your list of things that coordinators should do to be more effective and efficient in the meantime? I say that you only got 5 minutes, so make it short and sweet, because you may have a big list.
Yeah. So, but before I say that, Manish, there are a lot of our customers who are actually watching us. You just heard Manish say about the IoT and WhatsApp integration. Pretty excited. Actually, we're working on those fronts. So if you have any ideas that you would like to share with us, both either as a service provider or as a consumer, what is it that you would like to see in that whole experience? Drop in an email to us or reach out to us, and we'll be very happy to take some ideas on that. So we are open to that. But before we close, we just have about 4 minutes before we close. Here are the most important things that as coordinators that one should make sure that these are the mistakes that you should try to avoid. The first important thing, when you take a call, log it straight onto the system. Do not have this dual mechanism of writing it on paper or on books and diaries, and go live. Keep it open in front of you. Just do it immediately. Every time a call gets escalated, think of it like a customer calling you and telling you that my job's not done. What's happening? That's the pressure, right? You should see it from that perspective. A call is escalated. Think of a customer yelling at you and getting upset with you. And what you should be doing, fix it immediately. Act on it immediately. Do not keep it pending. Keep this whole thing real time, and that makes a huge difference. Third, don't try to remember everything. We are humans. We cannot remember everything. The platform has given you all the features, all right, whereby you can set reminders, you can put notes, you can write down the customer's feedback. What is he asking you to do? Write it down. Use it. Don't keep diaries, papers, pencils, nothing. You should be sitting freehand, nothing with you, just your laptop in front of you or your desktop or your computer, whatever you're using to just manage the calls. And every time you send out an estimate, a quotations, attach it to the platform, because these things get revised. Customers take time to decide. They call back after a month or after a few days, and when they tell you that, listen, I need to relook at that work which is given, you can't tell them that, listen, I'm going to search where that quotation is and get back to you. You should be immediately able to see it and open it, and yes, sir, this is what it is. And the entire history, there are 5 revisions, you got to see it immediately so you can respond to the customer very fast. And if a call is kept pending, there are often calls which are kept pending because the customer site is not ready. There's a renovation going on. I don't want it fixed right now. Please wait for it before you give me my machine back, or whatever it is. Move it. There is a section which says there is reminders for the customers. Wait for the customer response to come. Move it there. That itself will create its own periodical alerts. You will never forget it. But don't leave it in between and then look at, there's a mess. Oh my God, what do I do with it? And keep calling customers 10 times. And the last important things, when a customer tells you that my mobile number has changed and my email ID has changed, update it. Then and there, update it. You forget to write that, and then the customer's notifications don't come. And that's it. That's the most important thing. Now, these are some very basic mistakes that you follow. If you want to make sure you don't make those mistakes, very simple. Stick to the process. Just stick to the process. You will be able to give a wow experience to your customer in terms of service delivery, and in terms of your communication. So that's the time that we have today. So I think, Manish, that's a little bit of information that we've given to most of the guys and service providers. And hopefully some of the customers also should write to us in what they expect from a WhatsApp integration and an IoT perspective. So that could be a lot of insights for us. What do you say?
Definitely. I think that's what we're looking for. And that's actually how the platform was built, was really from, customers telling us what they want, how they want to improve it. And the reality is we're all kind of doing this together. And a lot of the feedback we get is directly from people that, want to streamline their operations.
Awesome. So we will come back with another episode next month, which is slated for the 12th of March. By then, we are open for business. So if you are a service provider and you would like to use our platform, the numbers are on the screen right now and the email ID is there. Drop it on that and our team would get in touch with you and explain to you how to use this platform. And everyone uses an air conditioner. An air conditioner should be well maintained. And the best way to do that is to have an annual maintenance contract. And if you do not have a maintenance contract, or you would like to have a reliable one, then go for the Smart AMC, which also gives you updates on energy consumption and how you can save energy. That's the number on the screen. That's the email ID. Drop us an email, call us, and we will be very happy to get in touch with you and give you all the details that is required. So that's the time that we have today for, and see you next month on the 12th of March. Right, Manish?
Sounds good. For number 7. All right. Take care, everyone.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.